Billionaire adopts baby abandoned in a cardboard box. 5 years later, a taxi arrives with a shocking truth that brings him to tears. Dylan Fox walked down the empty street, his footsteps echoing on the wet asphalt. It was 9:30 p.m. He had left his car in the company parking lot. He needed fresh air, space to think after another day of meetings and numbers that wouldn't stop running through his mind. Streetlights cast soft yellow pools on the sidewalk. The city was quiet, only the distant hum of traffic and his own footsteps breaking the silence. That's when he heard it. A cry. Dylan stopped. He looked around. The street was deserted. Only a few parked cars and the darkened storefronts. The sound came from nearby, faint but insistent. A baby. He shook his head and continued walking. It wasn't his problem. Someone would show up. Someone always did. But the crying persisted, and it seemed to be growing weaker. Dylan took a few more steps, trying to ignore it. But something about the sound bothered him. It wasn't hunger or fussiness. It was desperation. Pure, simple desperation. He stopped again and turned back. He followed the sound to a dimly lit corner near a trash bin. There, pressed against a brick wall, was a cardboard box, small with holes on the sides. From inside came that cry cutting through the cold night air. Dylan approached slowly. The box was partially closed. He lifted one flap. A newborn baby, tiny, wrapped in a faded pink blanket. Her eyes were closed, but her mouth wobbled in a cry that was already hoarse. She couldn't have been more than a few days old. Dylan stood there, frozen, staring at that tiny being. He didn't know what to do. He'd never held a baby in his life. He saw a folded note next to the child. He picked it up and opened it under the faint glow of the streetlight. She deserves a chance. That's it. 4 words in shaky handwriting. Dylan looked at the baby again. She had stopped crying and was staring at him with dark, bright eyes, as if she recognized him. He took a step back. This wasn't his responsibility. He had to call the police, child services, someone who knew how to handle this. He began to walk away, but the baby started crying again. And this time, Dylan felt something strange in his chest, like something squeezing him from the inside. He looked around. The street was empty. No one else had heard. No one else was coming. Dylan knelt and carefully picked the baby up. She was too light, too warm. And the moment he lifted her, she stopped crying. "Okay," Dylan murmured, unsure whom he was talking to. "Okay." The baby stared back at him intently, as if waiting for him for a long time. Dylan walked back toward the company lot, holding her like she was made of glass. When he reached his car, he opened the back door and placed her on the seat, smoothing the blanket around her. "Where should I take you?" he asked softly. The answer came naturally. Home. His mansion was in an upscale area of the city, surrounded by well-manicured gardens. He parked on the circular drive and stayed there a moment, looking at the baby through the rearview mirror. What was he doing? He was a businessman. He knew how to close million-dollar deals, fire employees, make tough decisions without blinking. But there, with that child in the back seat, he felt completely lost. The baby began to cry again. Dylan got out of the car and scooped her into his arms. She fit entirely within his span. "Shh," he said, rocking her gently. "We'll figure this out." Inside the house, the first thing he did was call his assistant. "Margaret, I need help." "Mr. Fox, it's almost 10 p.m. "Is everything okay?" Dylan looked down at the baby, who was quiet in his arms, her eyes fixed on his face. "I found a child. A baby. I need baby things, diapers, bottles, clothes, everything I can get." "A child? Sir, have you called the police?" "Not yet. I need those things first. Can you get them tonight?" There was a pause. "Mr. Fox, it's almost 10 p.m. "Margaret, it's urgent." "All right, I'll see what I can do. Maybe I can find something at 24-hour pharmacies." "Perfect. Pay whatever it takes." "Mr. Fox, may I ask?" "I'll explain tomorrow. Just get everything." "Okay." Dylan hung up and looked at the baby. She had fallen asleep in his arms. "And now," he murmured. He carried her to the living room sofa and sat down, careful not to wake her. The house was quiet. only the tick of a wall clock marking the minutes. Dylan had never thought about having children. It wasn't part of his plans. He was too focused on work, too ambitious to divide his attention with anything or anyone. But there, with that child sleeping in his arms, he felt something he couldn't explain, a responsibility beyond any contract or deal. "You need a name," Dylan said softly, looking at her. "Claire. How about Claire?" The baby didn't answer, but Dylan felt she approved. Margaret arrived 2 hours later with bags full of supplies. She saw Dylan holding the baby and didn't ask unnecessary questions. "I got bottles, powdered formula, diapers in various sizes," she said, laying everything on the table, "and some basic outfits." "Thank you, Margaret. You're a lifesaver." "Mr. Fox, do you know how to care for a baby?" Dylan looked at Claire, still sleeping in his arms. "No, but I'll learn." Margaret nodded and left, promising to return in the morning to help with whatever was needed. That first night, Dylan barely slept. Claire woke 3 times crying, and he tried to handle everything himself, making bottles, changing diapers, soothing her. It wasn't easy, but he managed. The next morning, Margaret arrived early. "Mr. Fox, you need professional help," she said, seeing his dark circles. "Someone who knows how to care for babies." Dylan nodded. He had been up all night and already knew he couldn't do this alone. "Do you know anyone?" "Eleanor Hartwell. She's experienced, worked with several families. Can I call her?" "Call her." An hour later, Eleanor arrived. She was a middle-aged woman with grey hair in a bun and a gentle smile. She looked at Dylan holding Claire and asked no questions. "She seems healthy," Eleanor said, examining Claire carefully. "A few days old, I'd say. She needs a medical checkup, but nothing urgent." "Can you stay?" Dylan asked. "To care for her while I sort things out." Eleanor smiled. "Of course, Mr. Fox." She took Claire into her arms and the baby didn't protest. Eleanor had that natural way Dylan knew he'd never have. "I'll prepare a nursery for her," Eleanor said, "and I'll take care of everything. Don't worry." Dylan nodded, feeling immense relief. In the following days, Dylan arranged everything. He registered Claire as his adopted daughter, hired lawyers to formalize the adoption, and turned one of the rooms into a fully equipped nursery. Eleanor cared for Claire with tenderness. She fed her bottles, changed diapers, rocked her whenever she cried. And Dylan watched, trying to understand how that child had changed his life so quickly. He walked through the rooms and heard Eleanor talking to Claire, singing softly, laughing when the baby made a sound. The house felt different, more alive. But Dylan was still Dylan. He left early, returned late. Sometimes when he got home, Claire was already asleep. He'd go to her room and sit there, watching her sleep, feeling that ache in his chest he couldn't explain. "I love you," he murmured softly, as if it were a secret. And it was true. He loved that child in a way he never thought possible. But love and presence were different things. Claire grew up in Eleanor's arms. She learned to smile first at her, babbled her first words while Eleanor made funny faces. Dylan was always working. When Claire was 6 months old, she already recognized Dylan. She smiled when he came home, reached her little arms out to him, and Dylan melted. He'd pick her up, play for a few minutes, say he loved her, but then the phone rang, or he remembered an important email, or a meeting he couldn't miss. "Just a minute," he told Claire, who didn't understand but sensed it. Eleanor watched in silence. She cared for Claire as if she were her own granddaughter, but she knew it wasn't the same. Claire needed her father. When Claire turned 1, she was walking and saying a few words, Nanny for Eleanor, Daddy for Dylan, but only when he was around, which wasn't often. Dylan bought expensive gifts, imported toys, designer clothes. But Claire wanted attention, not things. She wanted him to sit on the floor and play with her, to read stories before bed, to be present. Sometimes Dylan tried. He'd sit on the couch with Claire in his lap and open a storybook. She'd sit quietly, paying attention, her eyes wide. But after a few pages, the phone would ring, or he'd remember something urgent. "I'm sorry, Claire," he'd say, rubbing her hair. "Daddy has to work." Claire didn't understand the words. But she understood the gesture. She understood he was leaving again. When Claire was 2, she already knew Dylan was different from other parents. She saw children in the park with their parents, playing, running, laughing together. And she had Eleanor, who was wonderful, but it wasn't the same. Dylan would come home and Claire would run to him, happy. He'd pick her up, kiss her, say he loved her, and she believed him, but then he'd put her down and disappear again. "Daddy has to work," he always said. Claire didn't know what work was, but she knew it was something that took her father away. She began making drawings for him, colorful scribbles that Eleanor helped hang on the refrigerator. When Dylan came home, Claire would show him the drawings, proud. "That's beautiful, Claire," he'd say, smiling. "Daddy loves your drawings." But he never asked about the drawings, never asked what she had done during the day, never asked about anything. Eleanor tried talking to him a few times. "She misses you, Mr. Fox," she said gently. "She needs more time with you." Dylan nodded. "I know. I'll try to organize my schedule better." But the schedule never got organized. There was always something more urgent, always a meeting that couldn't be postponed. At 3 years old, Claire already understood Dylan loved her, but also understood he wasn't staying. She stopped expecting him at night, stopped running to the door when she heard the car in the garage. She played with Eleanor, who took her to the park, taught her to ride a bike, read stories before bed. Eleanor did everything a father should do. But Claire still wished Dylan would do those things too. When he came home, she'd go to him, but without the same urgency she once had. He'd pick her up, say he loved her, and she believed him. But she also knew he would leave again. "Daddy, will you play with me?" she'd ask sometimes. "Of course, princess. Let me just finish something here." But the something never ended. Claire learned to love Dylan even while missing him. She learned love didn't mean presence. She learned "I love you" could be true even when the person didn't stay. And Dylan continued to be Dylan. Working, building his empire, making big decisions, but missing the important moments. Missing first steps, first words, first drawings, missing Claire. He didn't realize. He thought he was being a good father, that providing and protecting were enough. That love was what you said, not what you showed. And Claire grew up knowing she was loved, but also knowing she wasn't a priority. She was 4 when she understood that this was the only way her father loved her, and she decided she would accept it. Because even so, even with all the absence, she loved him too. But deep down, she still hoped that one day he would stay, that one day he would choose her instead of work. That one day he would realize she was growing, and that lost time could never be recovered. And so Claire turned 5, a girl who could draw colorful hearts, who knew all the stories Eleanor told, who waited for weekends when Dylan sometimes stayed home a little longer. A girl who loved the father who saved her, even though he never had time to be saved by her. Claire was sitting at the kitchen table, her feet swinging in the air, holding a red crayon. She was 5 now, brown hair always tied with a ribbon by Eleanor, and dark eyes that sparkled whenever she heard her father's car in the driveway. "What are you drawing, sweetie?" Eleanor asked, preparing her after-school snack. "A note for Daddy," Claire replied, focused. "So he doesn't forget." Eleanor leaned in and saw the paper covered with colorful drawings, a yellow sun, 2 figures holding hands, and words written in the unsteady handwriting of a 5-year-old. "Daddy and me, just us today." "He promised we'd go to the park today," Claire explained proudly. "He said today would be just ours." Eleanor smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. She had seen many notes like that, and she knew how they usually ended. "That's lovely, Claire. I'm sure he'll love it." Claire carefully folded the paper and ran to the living room, where she placed the note on Dylan's desk. It was always the same ritual: draw, write, wait. At 6 p.m., Claire stood by the living room window. Dylan had promised to arrive at 6 to take her to the park. She wore her favorite dress, the blue one with white flowers, and had asked Eleanor to braid her hair into 2 pigtails. "He'll come," she murmured to herself, watching every car that passed on the street. 6:15 p.m., 6:30 p.m., 7 p.m. "Claire, how about we have dinner?" Eleanor suggested gently. "No, he said he'd come at 6. He must be on his way." Eleanor sighed. She knew that scene by heart. The girl waiting, eyes glued to the window, refusing to accept that Dylan wouldn't come. At 8 p.m. the phone rang. "Claire, it's your father," Eleanor said. Claire ran to answer, her heart pounding. "Daddy." "Hi, Princess. I'm sorry, but it'll have to be another day, okay? An important meeting came up and—" "But you promised," Claire interrupted, her voice beginning to quiver. "You said today was ours." "I know, sweetie. But sometimes work, you understand, right? We'll go tomorrow, I promise. You always say tomorrow." There was a pause on the other end. "Claire, I'll make it up to you, okay? Daddy loves you so much." "I love you too, Daddy." She hung up and stood there, staring at the phone. Eleanor approached and held her. "He had to work again," Claire said softly. "I know, sweetheart. He said he loves me. And he really does. Then why does he never stay?" Eleanor didn't know what to say. The next morning, Claire woke up hopeful again. Maybe today would be different. Maybe today Dylan would remember his promise. She made another note. This time she drew a house with 2 windows and a red door. Inside the house, 2 smiling stick figures. "Daddy, will you come play?" She placed the paper on Daddy's desk, next to yesterday's note that Dylan still hadn't seen. During breakfast, Claire told Eleanor all the plans she had made. "We'll play that card game you taught me, and then he can teach me to ride my bike without training wheels, and at night, we'll watch a movie together." Eleanor smiled, trying not to show what she really thought. "That sounds like a perfect day, Claire." At 5 p.m., Dylan arrived home. Claire was in the yard playing with her dolls, but she ran to him as soon as she heard the car. "Daddy, you came home early today." Dylan picked her up and kissed her forehead. "Hey, Princess, how was your day?" "I made a note for you. Want to see it?" "Sure, but let me just take care of a quick call, okay?" He set her down and grabbed the ringing phone. "Dylan Fox." Claire waited by his side. The call lasted 10 minutes, then 15, then half an hour. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging at his pant leg. Dylan motioned for her to wait and continued talking about contracts and meetings. Claire went to the living room and brought her note. She stood there, holding the paper, waiting. When Dylan finally hung up, he looked at Claire as if he'd forgotten she was there. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. What did you want to show me?" Claire extended the note, but Dylan was already checking other emails on his phone. "That's nice," he said without really looking. "Daddy needs to take care of a few things here, okay?" And he disappeared into his office. Claire stood in the living room holding the note he barely saw. Eleanor came over and sat next to her on the couch. "He saw your drawing," Eleanor said. "He did, but he was distracted," Claire replied. "He's always distracted." Eleanor put an arm around Claire. "Sometimes adults worry too much about work. More than me." The question cut Eleanor's heart. "No, sweetie. He worries a lot about you. He just doesn't know how to show it." Claire rested her head on Eleanor's shoulder. "I wish he would stay with me, just for a little while." I know. Days passed in the same pattern. Claire made notes, waited for Dylan, and he always had something more urgent to do, meetings, calls, contracts that couldn't wait. She learned not to expect too much. She learned that today is just for us meant maybe, if nothing more important came up, he would have a few minutes for her. But she kept trying. She made a colorful calendar, marking every day Dylan promised to spend with her. The days stayed blank one after another. She drew family pictures, always her, Dylan, and Eleanor together, always smiling. She wrote letters about her day, about the books Eleanor read to her, about her friends at school. Sometimes Dylan found the notes in the middle of calls or meetings. He'd smile quickly, say they were lovely, promise to keep them all, but Claire knew he forgot the moment he left the room. "Why do you keep making notes for him?" Lily, her school friend, asked one day. "My dad says when someone doesn't pay attention to you, it's better to stop trying." Claire thought about the question for a long time. "Because I love Daddy," she finally replied. "And when you love someone, you don't stop." Lily frowned. "But isn't it painful when he never calls?" "It is," Claire admitted. "But I still love him anyway." And it was true. Despite broken promises, calls in the middle of playtime, dinners alone because Dylan got home late, Claire still loved her father. She had learned that love didn't depend on presence, that it was possible to love someone even while missing them. Every morning, Dylan left early for the office. Every night he returned late, tired, his phone always ringing. Claire tried to tell him about her day, show her drawings, but he always had an urgent call to take. "Just a minute, princess," was his favorite phrase. But the minute turned into an hour, and the hour turned into night, and Claire ended up falling asleep without her father's time. Eleanor watched everything in silence. She cared for Claire as if she were her own granddaughter, but she knew it wasn't the same. Claire needed her father. She needed him to stop, even if just for 5 minutes, and truly see her. But Dylan was always too busy. There was always something more important. On a Tuesday afternoon, Dylan was in his home office, on the phone about a corporate merger. It was a complex negotiation, millions at stake, and he gestured nervously as he discussed terms. That's when he saw through the window a yellow taxi pull up in front of the mansion. Dylan frowned, not stopping his conversation. He wasn't expecting anyone. The driver, a middle-aged man wearing a cap, walked to the front door. "No, I won't accept less than 15 million for the division," Dylan said, watching the stranger ring the bell. "We're set for tomorrow at 9. The bell rang through the house. Eleanor appeared in the hallway and opened the door. Dylan could see them through the window, but he heard nothing but his own voice arguing about numbers. The driver handed something to Eleanor, an envelope, it seemed. She nodded, thanked him, and the man returned to his cab. Seconds later, the yellow car disappeared down the street. "How can they want to renegotiate?" Dylan continued on the call, seeing Eleanor approach his office door. She knocked gently and entered, holding a white envelope. "Mr. Fox, a taxi driver brought this for you," she said politely. Dylan waved her off impatiently, still on the phone. "Hey, it's impossible to close at that price. We're set for tomorrow at 9. Eleanor placed the envelope on his desk and left silently. Dylan continued discussing figures and deadlines for another half hour, pacing in his office. When he finally hung up, he was exhausted. He sat down and rubbed his temples. That's when he noticed the envelope on the desk. No sender, no stamp. Just his name written in unsure, slightly shaky handwriting. Dylan Fox. He picked up the envelope, curious. Who would send something by taxi? And why not regular mail? He opened it without haste, still mulling over the numbers from the negotiation he had just wrapped up. A photo fell out. Dylan froze mid-sentence. He abruptly ended the phone call. The photo showed a young woman in a simple uniform, those blue outfits cleaning staff wore. She was holding a baby in her arms, smiling at the camera. The woman seemed tired, but there was genuine happiness in her eyes. Dylan flipped the photo. On the back, in handwriting he recognized immediately, was written, "She is your daughter." The world stopped. Dylan looked at the photo again. The woman was Camilla Rodriguez. She had worked at Fox Enterprises 2 years ago on the night cleaning team. He remembered her perfectly, always polite, always smiling when she saw him in the empty hallways during late nights he stayed working, dark hair tied in a ponytail, large expressive eyes. They had started with casual conversations. She'd ask if he wanted her to clean the office now or come back later. He'd say he could keep working, that her presence didn't bother him. Then they had longer talks. She'd tell him about her nursing studies. She was taking classes during the day. He'd talk about work stress, the pressure of running a company. One night, after a particularly difficult meeting, she offered him coffee. He accepted. They talked until dawn, and one thing led to another. It was only a few times, brief encounters when the company was empty. Nothing serious, nothing that would compromise his reputation, or so Dylan thought, until he heard rumors from other employees that there were whispers about the boss and the cleaning lady, that it could affect his image, his business. So he fired her. He lied about budget cuts, reducing the cleaning staff. He gave her a generous severance package, a letter of recommendation. He tried to make it easy. Camilla didn't protest. She just nodded, thanked him for the opportunity, and left. Dylan never thought about her again. Until now. He looked at the photo once more. The baby in her arms looked only a few months old. Dark hair, big eyes, like Claire when she was little. Like Claire. Dylan sank into his office chair, his legs shaking. He did the math in his head. Camilla had been fired 2.5 years ago. If she was pregnant then and didn't say anything? He looked toward the staircase. where he could hear Claire's voice chatting with Eleanor, his daughter, the girl he had found in a box, whom he had registered as his own, whom he loved in a way he never thought possible. Could she really be his daughter, by blood and not just by choice? Dylan put the photo in his pocket and climbed the stairs. Claire was in her room organizing her books. "Hi, Daddy," she said, running to hug him. "You came to see me." Dylan picked her up and looked into her eyes, dark like Camilla's, like his own. "Claire," he said, his voice trembling, "Daddy loves you so much. You know that, right?" "I know," she replied, smiling. "And I love you too." Dylan hugged her tightly, feeling a mix of love and guilt that suffocated him. If Claire was Camilla's child, then the woman he had used and discarded had become pregnant. She had given birth alone. She had been so desperate that she abandoned her own daughter in a box on the street, and he hadn't known. "Daddy, are you okay?" Claire asked, noticing his expression. "I'm fine," Dylan lied. "I was just thinking about how much you've grown." Claire smiled and returned to her books. Dylan went downstairs, the photo burning in his pocket. He needed to find Camilla. He needed to know the truth. But first he needed to look at Claire with new eyes. The girl he had chosen to love might have been his by right from the start, and that changed everything. Or maybe it changed nothing. Claire was still the same girl who made colorful notes for him, who waited by the window when he promised to come home early, who loved him despite all his flaws. The only difference now was that Dylan knew she might have inherited that capacity to love unconditionally, from Camilla and from him. Two people who had met on an empty night, connected for a moment, and created something bigger than themselves. Claire, his daughter, by choice and possibly by blood. Dylan took the photo from his pocket and looked at it again. Camilla smiled at the camera, holding that baby who was now up in her room, arranging books and waiting for her father to have time for her. He put the photo in the office drawer and went up to Claire's room. "Want to play with me, Daddy?" she asked hopefully. And for the first time in a long time, Dylan answered, "Yes." "Today is just ours." Claire smiled as if it were the most precious gift in the world, and maybe it was. Dylan put the photo in the office drawer, but couldn't get it out of his mind. He lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, doing mental calculations. The dates lined up perfectly. Camilla had been fired 2.5 years ago. Claire was 5 now, which meant Camilla had been pregnant when... He shook his head. He couldn't jump to conclusions, but the possibility haunted him. The next morning, Dylan watched Claire at breakfast with new eyes. She sat at the table, eating cereal and swinging her legs, as always. But now he looked for resemblances, the shape of her eyes, the color of her hair, the way she smiled. For the first time, Dylan really paid attention to details. Claire's eyes were dark, almost black, like Camilla's, like his own. Her hair was dark brown with strands that gleamed in the morning sun. She had a dimple in her chin when she smiled, a dimple Dylan had only just noticed in himself. "Daddy, you're looking at me funny," Claire said, smiling. Dylan blinked, realizing he had been staring. "Sorry, Princess, I was just thinking..." "About what?" "About you." Claire smiled even brighter, as if it were the greatest compliment in the world. "Will you stay home today?" Dylan looked at his watch. He had 3 meetings scheduled, 2 international calls and a business lunch. His calendar was full, as always. "I can't today, sweetie, but..." "Okay," Claire interrupted without bitterness. "I know you have to work." The ease with which she accepted rejection broke Dylan's heart. She no longer even expected him to stay. She had learned not to. "Claire," he said, standing up from the table, Tomorrow will be just ours, okay?" "I promise." Claire nodded, but Dylan saw she didn't really believe it. How many times had he made that same promise? "All right, Daddy." Eleanor appeared in the kitchen carrying Claire's lunchbox. "Let's go, sweetie. It's time for school." Claire jumped off the chair and ran to give Dylan a goodbye kiss. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too," he replied, hugging her tightly. And for the first time, Dylan wondered, did she somehow unconsciously know they were connected by more than choice? Was there a biological bond he had never noticed? In the car, on the way to the office, Dylan couldn't concentrate. He looked in the rearview mirror at Claire waving from the window and wondered, was she really his daughter? And if so, what did that change? She was already his. She had been from the moment he found her in that box. He had registered her as his daughter, loved her as such, but knowing she might carry his blood, did that change anything? Dylan thought about the little things he had never noticed before. How Claire furrowed her brow when she was focused, exactly like he did in important meetings. How she bit her lower lip when she was nervous, a habit he had since childhood. How she was stubborn in a very specific way that reminded him of his own personality. He had always thought they were coincidences. That children picked up those behaviors by watching the adults around them. But what if it wasn't learning? What if it was genetics? At the office, Dylan tried to work normally, but his mind was elsewhere. During the morning meeting, while they discussed expansion strategies, he found himself thinking about how Claire arranged her toys with the same meticulousness he arranged his contracts. "Mr. Fox?" Margaret's voice brought him back to reality. "Sorry," Dylan said, looking around the conference room. "Could you repeat the question?" The other executives exchanged glances. Dylan Fox never got distracted in meetings. He was known for absolute focus and quick absorption of information. "We were discussing the timeline for the merger with Peterson Industries," one of the directors said. "Right, let's reschedule for next week. I need to review some numbers." After everyone left, Margaret stayed behind. "Mr. Fox, is everything okay? You seem distant today." Dylan hesitated. Margaret had worked with him for 10 years. She was discreet, efficient, and one of the few people he fully trusted. "Margaret, I need to hire someone, a private investigator." She blinked, surprised. "A PI? May I ask why?" "I need to locate someone. A former employee, Camila Rodriguez. She worked here about 2 years ago on the cleaning staff." Margaret nodded. Without asking more questions, that was one of the qualities Dylan valued most in her. "I'll arrange it. Do you know a specific investigator?" "No, but I want the best. Someone discreet and efficient. This is personal, Margaret. Very personal." "Understood. I'll make some calls." That afternoon, Dylan was in his office when Margaret knocked on the door. "Mr. Fox, I found contact info for a PI, James Morrison. He has excellent references and is known for discretion. He's worked with several prominent families." "Great, schedule a meeting. He can come now if you'd like. He's in town." Dylan nodded. 30 minutes later, a middle-aged man with grey hair and keen eyes entered his office. He wore a simple but well-tailored suit, exuding professionalism that inspired confidence. "Mr. Fox, I'm James Morrison. I understand you need to locate someone." "Exactly. A woman named Camila Rodriguez, about 25 years old, dark hair, brown eyes. She worked here 2 years ago as cleaning staff." Morrison took notes in a small notebook. "Any additional information? Last known address? Relatives? Friends?" Dylan hesitated. She was studying nursing at the time, local college, likely attending classes during the day. She lived alone, as far as I recall. She was an honest and hard-working person. Reason for the search? Dylan felt a tightening in his chest. "Personal, very personal." Morrison nodded, not prying. "It may take a few days, perhaps a week. Can I call you once I have information?" "Yes, and Morrison, this is strictly confidential. It can't be leaked to anyone." "Of course. I always work with total discretion." The next few days were torture for Dylan. He tried to maintain his routine, but was constantly distracted. He observed Claire with intense scrutiny, searching for clues, resemblances, confirmations. During Wednesday's dinner, Claire talked about a school project. "The teacher asked us to draw our families," she said, showing a colored sheet. "Look what I made." The drawing showed 3 figures. A tall man in a suit, clearly Dylan, a woman with grey hair, Eleanor, and a small girl in a blue dress, Claire. All smiling, holding hands in front of a large house. "That's beautiful," Dylan said, studying the drawing. "But why didn't you draw a mother?" Claire furrowed her brow. "Eleanor takes care of me like a mother, and you're my father. That's a family, right?" The simplicity of her answer touched Dylan deeply. "It is, Princess. It's a perfect family." But that night, Alone in his office, Dylan couldn't stop thinking, what if Claire actually had a mother? What if Camilla wanted to be in her daughter's life? How would that affect the dynamic they had built? Claire noticed her father's changed behavior. "Daddy, why do you keep looking at me so much?" she asked one Thursday morning. They were having breakfast together, a rare occurrence since Dylan usually left before she woke up. But in recent days, he had been arriving late to the office, just to spend a few minutes longer with her. "Can't I look at my beautiful daughter?" he replied, trying to sound casual. "You can," Claire said, smiling, "but it's different. You look as if you're seeing me for the first time." The girl's observation surprised him. At 5, she was already very perceptive. "Maybe I am," Dylan murmured. "How so?" Dylan searched for the right words. "Sometimes you look at someone you love and notice new things that were always there, but you never paid attention to." Claire furrowed her brow, thoughtful. She had inherited that focused expression from him, Dylan realized. "What kind of things? How smart you are, how big your heart is, how you love me even when I don't deserve it." Claire smiled and reached out her small hand to touch his face. "You always deserve it, Daddy, because you're my dad." Her words moved Dylan more than they should have. She was right, he was her father. He had been since he scooped her up that night in the cold. Blood or not, Claire was his daughter, but now he needed to know the truth. For Claire, for himself, and maybe for Camilla too. On Friday, Morrison called. "Mr. Fox, I located Camilla Rodriguez." Dylan's heart raced. "Where is she?" "She's here in the city. Lives in a small apartment in a residential neighborhood near downtown, 847 Palm Street, Apt 301. She works as a housekeeper, cleaning private homes." Dylan noted the address carefully. "Anything else?" "She lives alone, a simple life, no luxuries. Pays her rent on time but doesn't have much left over. Works about 6 days a week to cover her expenses. She's known as honest and dedicated by her clients, keeps few social contacts. And, does she have children?" There was a pause. "Not that I could confirm. She keeps her life private. No neighbors mentioned children, and no family photos were visible in her apartment." Dylan closed his eyes. Of course she wouldn't have other children visible. If Claire was really her daughter, Camilla had given her up. She had put her in a box and left her for someone else to raise. "Anything else important, Mr. Fox? How is she financially?" "She lives on the bare minimum, makes rent payments but has little to spare. She works hard, always appeared to be someone who doesn't ask for help." "Anything else, Mr. Fox?" "No." "Thank you, Morrison. Please send your full report to my assistant." Dylan hung up and stood there, staring out his office window. Camilla was just a few miles away, living a simple life, working honestly, without asking for anything. Not looking for him, not trying to get in touch, not knowing the daughter she had abandoned was being raised by the child's father. If indeed Claire was her daughter, Dylan needed certainty. He needed to talk to Camilla, hear her story, understand what had happened in those confusing days 5 years ago. That evening, Dylan arrived home earlier than usual. Claire was in the living room, playing with her dolls, weaving little imaginary stories. "Daddy," she exclaimed, running to hug him. "You got home early." "I did," he said, picking her up. "What are you playing?" "I'm making up a story about a family. Want to play with me?" Dylan looked at the dolls scattered on the floor. Usually, he would say he was tired, that he had work to do, that maybe later. But this time, he sat on the rug next to her. "Sure. What's the story?" Claire beamed. It was rare to have her father's full attention. She arranged the dolls and began explaining. "This one is the daughter," she said, holding a dark-haired doll. "And this is the father," she pointed to a doll in a suit. "They live in a big house and love each other very much." "And where's the mother?" Dylan asked, curious. Claire hesitated a moment. "The mother, she had to leave when the daughter was a baby. But it's okay because the father takes care of everything." Dylan felt a lump in his throat. Had Claire somehow known? Or was it just coincidence? "Why did the mother have to leave?" "Because sometimes people have to go away," Claire replied as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "But love stays. And one day maybe she'll come back. And if she does come back," Claire thought for a moment, That would be nice. The daughter would have both a father and a mother. But if she doesn't come back, that's okay too, because Dad loves me enough for two. They played for an hour. Dylan gave each doll a different voice, created adventures, laughed at Claire's silly jokes. And for the first time in a long while, he didn't think about work, meetings, urgent calls. He thought only about being there with his daughter, the daughter who had always been his by choice, and who now, he discovered, might also be his by blood. When Claire went to bed, Dylan sat in the living room, staring at the dolls still scattered on the floor. The family she had created was simple: a father, a daughter, and the love that bound them. But there was an empty space in the story, a place where the mother should have been. Maybe it was time to find out if that space could be filled. On Saturday morning, Dylan made a decision. He would visit Camilla. Not to confront her, not to demand explanations, just to understand. He checked the address Morrison had given: 847 Palm Street, Stour Apt 301. An older but well-maintained building in a modest part of town. Dylan parked on the street and lingered for a few minutes, gathering courage. What would he say? How would he begin that conversation? "Hi, Camilla, remember me? I've got a photo of you with a baby. Did you happen to abandon a child in a box 5 years ago?" No, it had to be more delicate. Dylan took a deep breath and got out of the car. It was time to discover the truth. But first, he glanced one last time at the photo in his pocket. Camilla smiling, holding that baby in her arms. If Claire was truly the child in the photo, then the woman he was about to meet had made the hardest decision of her life. She had given up her own daughter so that she would have a better chance. And Dylan, unknowingly, had given her that chance. Now it was time to close the loop. It was time to find out if the daughter who had always been his by choice was also his by right. Dylan climbed the building stairs slowly, his heart pounding. Apt 301. He paused in front of the door, took a deep breath, and rang the bell. Footsteps approached from inside. The door opened. Camilla was there. She looked almost unchanged. She still had the same dark hair, now tied in a simple ponytail. Her brown eyes were the same, but there was something different in them, a weariness that hadn't been there before. She looked at him for a long moment, without surprise, as if she knew one day he would come. "Dylan," she said simply. "Camilla." They stood there, staring at each other. Dylan searched for anger in her eyes, resentment, hurt, but he only found fatigue. Deep fatigue. "I got your photo," Dylan finally said. Camilla nodded. "I know. Can I ask how she's doing?" "She's fine, very well." "That's good." "May I come in? We need to talk." Camilla hesitated a second, then stepped aside to let him enter. The apartment was small but tidy, simple furniture but clean, everything very different from the luxury Dylan was used to. "Coffee?" Camilla asked. "No, thank you." She sat on the sofa and gestured for Dylan to sit in the armchair across from her. "How did you find me?" Camilla asked. "I hired a PI." She smiled without humor. "Of course. You always had the resources to get what you wanted." Dylan felt the rebuke, but it didn't sound bitter, only sad. "Camilla, I need to know. The girl in the photo, is that Claire?" "Claire," she repeated. "It's a nice name. You picked it." "I did. But answer my question." Camilla looked down at her hands. "Yes, it's her." Dylan closed his eyes for a moment. "It was true. Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?" Camilla looked up at him. "Tell you," she repeated. "Dylan, you fired me. You discarded me as if I didn't matter, as if I were nothing." "That's not how it was." "It was exactly like that," she interrupted, still without anger in her voice. "You were afraid others would find out about us, afraid of what they'd think of the great Dylan Fox if he was involved with a cleaning lady." Dylan opened his mouth to protest, but he couldn't, because she was right. "I was in love with you," Camilla continued. "I thought maybe you felt something too. But when it became inconvenient, you threw me away." "Camilla. And then I found out I was pregnant." She stood and walked to the window. "I tried calling you. You changed your number. I tried going to the company. Your security wouldn't let me in." Dylan remembered. He had given strict instructions that Camilla was not to have access to him. I was desperate, Camilla said, still looking out. I had no money, no family. I was alone and pregnant. Why didn't you seek social services? Camilla turned to him. Do you think I didn't try? I went without necessities, Dylan, real necessity. I slept in shelters when I found a spot. Sometimes on the street. Dylan felt his stomach churn. I didn't know. How could you know? You were too busy protecting your reputation. She returned to the sofa. When she was born, I tried to keep her. I swear I tried. But I had no way to take care of her. No money for diapers, formula, nothing. And she was always sick because I couldn't keep her warm. Camilla's voice began to tremble. She cried so much, and I didn't know what to do. I was just a 22-year-old girl, alone in the world, trying to care for a baby. Dylan wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. That's when I got the idea, Camilla continued. I knew you worked late. I thought if I left her near the company, maybe you'd find her. You left me a choice, Dylan said quietly. I was desperate. I couldn't care for her. I left her a choice. You almost walked right past her. Dylan frowned. What do you mean? I was hiding around the corner, Camilla admitted. I wanted to be sure someone would find her. I saw you leave the building, hear the crying, and keep walking. Dylan remembered that night. How he had hesitated. I thought you would leave her there, Camilla said. But I came back. You came back, she agreed, giving a small smile. But I still believed that maybe a baby would break your stone heart. My heart isn't made of stone. Isn't it? Camilla looked him straight in the eyes. You used me, Dylan. You discarded me when I became inconvenient. You let the mother of your daughter suffer on the street. If that isn't a stone heart, I don't know what is. Dylan felt as if he'd been punched in the gut, because she was right. I didn't know you were pregnant, he said weakly, and if you had known, would it have made a difference? Dylan opened his mouth to say yes, but stopped. Would it have made a difference? I don't know, he admitted. Camilla nodded as if she had expected that answer. At least you're honest now. They sat in silence. Dylan tried to imagine what it had been like for her, alone, pregnant, without money, trying to care for a baby in an impossible situation. How did you survive afterward? He asked. By working, cleaning houses, organizing, making everything neat. It was tough at first, but I managed to get stable. And you never wanted to try to contact me again. For what? You had made your choice, and I had made mine. Why did you send the photo now? Because she's turning 5, and I wanted to make sure you were taking good care of her. You are. She's an amazing girl. I know. Sometimes I go to the park near your house just to see her from afar. Dylan felt a chill. You've been watching her. Not following her. Just watching from a distance to be sure I did the right thing. And do you think you did? She's alive. She's well cared for. She has a home, clean clothes, food every day. So yes. Dylan rose and paced the room. Camilla, I'm so sorry for everything. For firing you, for not knowing you were pregnant, for letting you go through that alone. You're sorry now, she said, because you know she's your daughter. But back then, when I was just the inconvenient cleaning lady, you felt nothing. That's not true. Isn't it? Then why did you fire me? Because I was afraid it would affect my career. I was young, ambitious, and I was disposable. No, you were never disposable. Then why was it so easy to throw me away? Dylan had no answer, because she was right. What do you want from me now? He asked. Nothing, Camilla replied, surprising him. I want nothing from you, Dylan, but she is your daughter. No, she is your daughter. I gave her up the moment I put her in that box. You registered her, you raised her, you love her. Don't you want to meet her? Be part of her life? Camilla smiled, but it was a sad smile. Of course I do. Not a day goes by that I don't think of her. But what I want doesn't matter. What matters is what's best for her. And you think it's better if she doesn't know you exist. I think it's better for her to have stability, to have a father who loves her. You didn't abandon her. You saved her. Camilla looked at him, surprised. That's what you did, Dylan continued. You put her where someone good would find her. That's not abandonment. That's love. For the first time, Dylan saw tears in Camilla's eyes. Sometimes I wonder what she's like, she whispered. If she likes music, drawing, if she's smart, if she's happy. She is all those things, Dylan said. She's amazing, Camilla. And she's that way because you had the courage to do the hardest thing in the world. Camilla closed her eyes and let a tear fall. Thank you, she murmured, for taking care of her, for loving her. Dylan sat next to her on the sofa. Camilla, she deserves to know who you are. You both deserve a chance to know each other. Do you really think so? I do. But it has to be in the right way at the right time. And what if she hates me? Then we explain, we tell the truth, that you loved her so much you gave her the only chance you had. Camilla nodded slowly. I would like to meet her, she admitted. I just don't know how. We'll figure it out, said Dylan, together. Dylan left Camilla's apartment with his mind racing. The conversation had changed everything, not only because he now knew for sure that Claire was his biological daughter, but because he finally understood the weight of his choices, the weight of what he had done and what he hadn't done. All the way home, he thought about Camilla's words, how she had fought alone, how she had endured hardship, how she had made the hardest decision of her life to give her daughter a better chance, and how he, unknowingly, had been responsible for all that. When he arrived home, Claire was in the living room with Eleanor, putting together a puzzle. Daddy, she yelled, running to hug him. Where did you go? Dylan picked her up and hugged her tight, tighter than ever. I had to handle some things, he said, but now I'm here. Are you working today? Dylan looked at the clock. It was Saturday afternoon. He normally would have used this time to get ahead on projects, answer emails, prepare for Monday's meetings. No, he replied. I'm not working today. Claire's eyes widened. Really? Really? How about we finish this puzzle together? Claire couldn't have been happier. They sat on the floor and spent the next 2 hours completing the 1,000-piece puzzle. Dylan turned off his phone and focused only on his daughter. Daddy, this piece goes here, Claire said, helping him place a piece of blue sky. You're right. You're so smart. Eleanor always says that. But it's nice when you say it too. The simple phrase cut Dylan's heart. How many times had Eleanor praised Claire while he was absent? How many moments had he missed? That night, Dylan had dinner with Claire for the first time in weeks. They sat at the table, just the two of them, and talked. How was school this week? He asked. It was great. We learned about the planets. Did you know Saturn has rings? I did. Which is your favorite planet? Jupiter, because it's the biggest. And you, which is yours? Dylan thought for a moment. I think Earth, because that's where you are. Claire smiled and continued talking about school, her friends, the teacher who taught in a funny way. Dylan listened to every word, truly listened. He didn't check his phone, didn't think about work. He was there, present, for the first time in a long time. Daddy, Claire said in the middle of dessert, you're different today. Different how? More here. You know, as if you're really here with me. The observation from a 5-year-old was deeper than many adults could make. It's because I'm here, Dylan said, and I'll try to be here more often. Promise? Dylan looked into his daughter's eyes he now knew were half his, half Camilla's. I promise. On Monday morning, Dylan did something he'd never done before. He cancelled his first meetings. Margaret, I'll be in a bit later today, he said on the phone. Mr. Fox, are you okay? You have a meeting with the Japanese at 9. I'll reschedule to 11, or to tomorrow. But sir, Margaret, just reschedule. Dylan hung up and went to Claire's room. Eleanor was helping her get dressed for school. Good morning, Princess. Daddy, you're not going to work. I am, but first I'll take you to school. Claire paused, putting on her shoes. You'll take me? I will, if you want me to. Of course I want you to. Eleanor looked at Dylan, surprised. He never took Claire to school. He always left before she woke up. In the car, Claire was radiant. She pointed out everything through the window. The bakery where Eleanor sometimes bought bread, the park where they played, the house of her friend Lily. "Look, Daddy, that's my school." Dylan parked in front of the yellow building and accompanied Claire to the entrance. Other parents were doing the same, greeting their children, giving goodbye kisses. "Daddy, will you pick me up too?" Dylan thought of his mental schedule. He had meetings until 6. "I will." "But you always have a meeting." "Today I'll leave earlier." Claire hugged him tightly before going into the school. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, Princess." Dylan arrived at the office at 10 a.m. Margaret was nervous. "Mr. Fox, the Japanese team is confused about the time change." I had to explain there was an unexpected issue. "It's all right, Margaret. They understood. And you have lunch with Peterson at noon. Cancel it." "Cancel?" "Sir, you're finalizing that merger. Reschedule for tomorrow or the day after." Margaret looked at him as if he'd hit his head. "Mr. Fox, can I ask what's going on?" Dylan sat in his chair and looked at the assistant who had worked with him for 10 years. "I'm trying to be a better father, Margaret." "You've always been a good father." "No. I've always been a good provider." "That's not the same thing." At 5 p.m. Dylan did something he hadn't done in years. He left the office. He left meetings half-finished, emails unread, contracts unreviewed. He arrived at Claire's school 5 minutes before the bell rang. When Claire appeared at the door, her eyes looked for Eleanor, as always. But when she saw Dylan standing by the car, her face lit up. "Daddy, you came." "I said I would." "I know, but you really came." On the way home, Claire told him all about her day, how math class went, how she played at recess, how the teacher praised her drawing. Dylan listened to everything. He asked questions. He was genuinely interested. "Can I see the drawing when we get home?" he asked. "Yes, it's a drawing of our family. You, me, and Eleanor. I can't wait to see it." In the following days, Dylan maintained the new routine. He took Claire to school every morning. He arrived at the office later, left earlier. He had dinner with her every night. Margaret was concerned about the drastic change in her boss's behavior, but Dylan didn't care. For the first time in his life, something was more important than work. Claire, on the other hand, was confused but happy. At first, she was skeptical. She thought it was temporary, that Dylan would soon go back to his old routine. "Daddy, don't you have a meeting today?" she asked on the mornings he appeared for breakfast. "I do, but they can wait." "Are you sure?" "I am." Slowly, Claire began to relax. She started believing the change was real, but there was still a hint of doubt in her eyes, as if she were expecting Dylan to disappear again. One night, while they read a book together on the couch, Claire asked a question Dylan knew would come. "Daddy, will you always have time for me?" Dylan stopped reading and looked at his daughter. She was staring at him with those dark, serious eyes, waiting for an honest answer. "Yes," he said without hesitation. "Even when you have an important meeting?" "Yes." "Even when someone calls from work?" "Yes." "Even when—" "Claire," Dylan interrupted, setting the book aside. "Yes, always. You are the most important thing in my life. More important than any meeting, any call, any work." Claire studied him for a moment, as if trying to figure out if he was telling the truth. "All right," she finally said. "You can keep reading." But Dylan saw that something had changed in her eyes. The doubt was beginning to fade. She was starting to believe. 2 weeks after the conversation with Camilla, Dylan noticed Claire was different, more relaxed, happier. She no longer rushed to hug him as if it might be the last time she saw him. She no longer asked anxiously when he would travel again. She was beginning to trust that he would stay, and Dylan was starting to understand what he had missed all those years. It wasn't just moments, it was pieces of Claire's soul, pieces she kept, waiting for him to show up and share them. Now he was there, present, really there. And for the first time since he found that baby in a box 5 years ago, Dylan felt he was truly being a father. Not just caring, not just providing, being a father. Dylan spent 3 weeks thinking about how to do it. How to introduce Camilla to Claire. How to explain a situation he still himself was trying to fully understand. Camilla had agreed to meet her daughter, but they both knew it needed to be done carefully. Claire was beginning to trust him again, and Dylan didn't want to break that newly built trust. One Thursday afternoon, After picking Claire up from school, Dylan gathered courage. "Claire, I need to talk to you about something important." They were in the backyard. Claire was showing him how Eleanor had taught her to plant flowers. "Is it about work?" Claire asked, still playing with dirt. "No, it's about family." Claire paused and looked at him. "What kind of family?" Dylan took a deep breath. "Claire, have you ever wondered about your mother? Your real mother?" Claire furrowed her brow. "Eleanor cares for me like a mother." "I know, and she does a wonderful job, but I'm talking about the woman who gave you life." Claire stood still for a moment. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but Eleanor always said she had to leave when I was a baby." "She did have to leave, but she never stopped thinking about you." "How do you know?" Dylan swallowed hard. "Because I found her." Claire dropped the trowel she was using. "You found my mother." "I did, and she would really like to meet you." Tears filled Claire's eyes. "She wants to meet me." "She does, very much. Why didn't she come see me before?" "Because she thought it would be better if she stayed away. She wanted you to have a stable life." "But now she changed her mind." "Yes, she knows you're older now, that you can understand things better." Claire stood absorbing the information. "Can I see her?" "If you want. I want to see her." Dylan arranged the meeting for the following Saturday at the park near their house. Camilla arrived 15 minutes early, nervous and straightening her clothes every minute. "Daddy, is she over there?" Claire asked, pointing to a woman on a bench. "She is. She looks nervous." "She is nervous. Are you nervous too?" Claire nodded. "A little." They walked to the bench. Camilla saw them approaching and stood. "Claire," Dylan said, stopping a few feet away. "This is your mother." Claire looked at Camilla for a long moment, studying her face for similarities. Camilla stood crying silently, just staring at her daughter. "You're much more beautiful than I imagined," Camilla whispered. Claire didn't respond. She continued observing. May I give you a hug?" Camilla asked hesitantly. That's when Claire stepped back. She took a step away, moving closer to Dylan. "She never wanted me," Claire said, looking at her father. "Now she wants to be my mother." Her question cut into Camilla's heart. "Claire," Camilla began. "No," Claire interrupted, her voice trembling. "You left me in a box." "I always wanted to be here," Camilla said, kneeling to be at Claire's level. "Not a day went by that I didn't think of you." "Then why didn't you come before?" "Because I had nothing to give you. I was very poor, very young. And I was happy without you," Claire said harshly. Her words struck Camilla like a blow. She lowered her head. "Claire," Dylan said, resting a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "You don't need to be cruel." "Why not?" "She was cruel to me." "She wasn't cruel, Princess. She did the best she could." Claire glared at Dylan in anger. "How can you defend her? She abandoned me." "She saved you," Dylan said calmly. "She did the hardest thing in the world. She gave me to you because she didn't want me." "No," Camilla interrupted. "I gave you to him because I loved you too much to see you suffer with me." Claire stared at her. "That doesn't make sense." "It does," Dylan said. "Sometimes loving someone means letting that person go." Dylan knelt next to Camilla. "Your mother was alone, without money, without a home. She couldn't feed you properly or keep you warm." "How do you know?" "Because I talked to her. She told me everything." Claire looked at Camilla. "Is it true?" Camilla nodded. "I sometimes lived on the streets. You cried from hunger, and I had no milk to give you. So you threw me away. I placed you where I knew someone good would find you." Claire processed the information. "You planned everything." "I planned so you would have a chance I couldn't give you." Claire stood quietly for a long moment. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she finally said. "You don't have to," Camilla replied. "I just wanted you to know that I always loved you. If you loved me, why didn't you try to see me?" "Because I thought it would be better if I stayed away. You had a good life, a family. I didn't want to disrupt it." Claire looked at Dylan. "Daddy, can I go home?" Dylan nodded. "Of course." He stood and looked at Camilla. "She needs time." "I know," Camilla said. Thank you for letting her meet me. This isn't over. She just needs processing time. On the way home, Claire was quiet. Only when they were pulling into the driveway did she speak. Daddy, do you think I was too mean to her? Dylan parked and turned to look at his daughter. I think you reacted the way any child would. You're hurt. You're confused. But she looked sad. She is sad. But she understands why you reacted that way. Do you think she really loves me? Dylan thought of Camilla, hiding around the corner that cold night, making sure someone would find Claire. I think she loves you more than you can imagine. Then why did it hurt so much when she said she loves me? Dylan touched his daughter's face. Because wounded love is still love, and sometimes you have to let the wound heal before you can feel the love again. Claire nodded. She did what she could, Dylan said. But you deserve to hear the truth. The whole truth. What truth? The truth about why she had to leave you, about how hard it was for her. Claire thought for a moment. I want to know, she said finally, but not today. When you're ready. When I'm ready. Dylan smiled and kissed his daughter's forehead. You are very brave, you know. How do you know? Because you were willing to meet your mother even though you were scared, and because you were honest about your feelings. Claire smiled for the first time since the park meeting. I'm as brave as you. You are much braver than me, Dylan replied. Much braver. 2 weeks passed since the park meeting. Claire never mentioned Camilla once, but Dylan noticed she was thinking. He saw that distant look in her eyes, the one that appeared when she was processing something important. One Sunday afternoon, Dylan was in his office organizing papers when he heard footsteps on the stairs. Claire appeared in the doorway holding something in her hands. Daddy, what is this? Dylan looked and his heart froze. Claire was holding the photo of Camilla with the baby. Where did you find that? It was in your drawer. I was looking for a pen and saw this envelope. Dylan realized he'd left the drawer slightly open after searching for documents earlier. Claire, it's her, isn't it? Claire interrupted, looking at the photo. It's my mother, and that baby is me. Dylan sighed. There was no escaping now. Yes. Why didn't you show me sooner? Because it's complicated. Claire came closer and climbed onto the chair beside him. Daddy, tell me the truth, the whole truth. Dylan looked at his daughter. She was serious and determined, no longer the confused 5-year-old from the park. She was a girl demanding answers. Are you sure you want to know? I am. Dylan took a deep breath. Your mother worked at my company, in cleaning. We had a relationship, but Dylan paused, searching for the right words. I was terrible to your mother. Cold. Cowardly. She didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve to pay for my mistake. Claire furrowed her brow. What kind of mistake? I fired her because I was afraid people would find out about us. I was the wealthy boss, and she was the cleaning lady. I thought it would damage my reputation. And she was pregnant. She was, but I didn't know. She tried to tell me, but I wouldn't listen. I changed my number, told security not to let her into the building. Claire processed the information in silence. So she was alone. She was alone and pregnant. She went without necessities, slept on the streets. And when you were born, she couldn't care for you. Because of you. The accusation stung, but Dylan knew it was true. Because of me, he admitted. And even so, she chose you to care for me. She left you where someone good would find you. And even without knowing, I chose to love you. Claire looked at the photo again, then at Dylan. You didn't know I was your daughter when you found me. No, I only discovered that when she sent this photo. But you loved me anyway. I loved you the moment I saw you. Before I knew anything about you, about where you came from. You were just a baby who needed love. Claire was silent for a long time, staring at the photo. Daddy, can I ask you something? Of course. If you had known I was your real daughter, would things have been different? Would you have loved me more? Dylan placed his hands on Claire's face. It's impossible to love you more than I already do. You've been my daughter since day one. Blood doesn't change that. And then Claire began to cry. But it wasn't tears of anger or hurt. It was tears of relief, of understanding. I understand now, she whispered. What do you understand? Why she had to leave me, why you treated her badly, why everything happened. Dylan pulled her into a hug. She did the best she could in an impossible situation. And I was so worried about myself that I didn't see what I was doing. But in the end, it worked out, Claire said, stepping back to look at him. You found me. You loved me. You took care of me. It worked out. But your mother paid a very high price for that. Claire nodded, pensive. Daddy, do you think she would forgive me if I asked her for forgiveness? Forgiveness for what? For being mean to her in the park. Dylan smiled. I think she would not only forgive you, but be very happy to know you want to talk to her again. I do want to, but can you be there with me? Always. Dylan called Camilla that same night. He explained about the photo, about the conversation with Claire. She wants to see you again, he said, but she wants to take things slowly. As she likes, Camilla replied, her voice filled with hope. In her own time. How about tomorrow, at our house, for afternoon tea? There was a pause. At your house? Claire suggested it. She said she wanted a place where she'd feel safe. Of course, and what time? 4 o'clock. I'll be there. On Monday at 4 p.m., Camilla rang the bell at the mansion. Claire was nervous, arranging teacups on the living room table for the 5th time. It's all lovely, Princess, Dylan said. Relax. What if she doesn't like the tea? What if I don't know what to say? Then you don't say anything, it's okay. Eleanor opened the door for Camilla. She wore the same blue dress from the park, but this time she carried a small bag. Hi, Camilla said shyly when she entered the room. Hi, Claire replied, equally shy. Dylan sat in a nearby armchair but stayed out of their way. He wanted them to talk alone. I brought something for you, Camilla said, extending the bag. Claire took it and opened it. Inside was a drawing pad and colored pencils. I thought maybe you might like to draw with me. I've always loved drawing. I like to draw too, Claire said softly. Want to try? Claire nodded. They sat on the floor, at the coffee table, and Camilla opened the notebook. What do you like to draw? Camilla asked. Houses and families. May I see one of your drawings? Claire hesitated, then fetched one of her drawings from the refrigerator. She showed Camilla the picture of their family, Dylan, Eleanor, and herself. That's very beautiful, Camilla said, examining every detail. You draw very well. Eleanor taught me. She seems like a special person. She is. She's taken care of me since I was a baby, Camilla nodded. I'm glad you had someone like her. They drew in silence for a few minutes. Claire sketched a house. Camilla drew flowers around it. The silence was long but not uncomfortable. May I ask something? Claire said without stopping her drawing. Of course. Did you always know I was here? In this house? I did. Sometimes I'd pass by just to make sure you were okay. Why didn't you ever try to talk to me? Camilla paused her drawing. Because I thought it would be better for you if I stayed away. You had a good life, a family. I didn't want to interfere, but you wanted to talk to me? Every day. Claire looked at her. What did you miss the most? Not knowing you. Not knowing what you were like, what you liked, how your voice sounded. Not being able to hug you when you were sad. Claire thought for a moment. You can hug me now if you want. Camilla felt tears fill her eyes. May I? Claire nodded. Camilla hugged her gently, as if she were made of crystal. Thank you, Camilla whispered. For what? For giving me a chance. In the days that followed, Camilla returned for more afternoon teas. At first, there was hesitation. Long silences where neither knew what to say. But little by little, conversations flowed more naturally. Claire discovered that Camilla also loved books, that she knew how to do origami, that she was afraid of spiders, just like Claire. Camilla learned that Claire was stubborn like Dylan, but had a kind heart, that she cared about others, asked smart questions, and had a sense of humor that made Camilla laugh. Do you want to see my room? Claire asked one Thursday. It was the first time she extended that invitation. I'd love to. Claire led her to the pink and white room, showed her toys, books, and drawings on the wall. This one I made thinking of you, Claire said, pointing to a drawing of a dark-haired woman. When did you make this? Last week, after we met. Camilla studied the drawing. The woman was smiling, and next to her was a little girl also smiling. Is that us? Camilla asked. Yes, I imagined how it would be if we were friends. Friends? For now, Claire said, until I get used to having a mother. Camilla smiled. Friends is fine for me. On Friday, Claire asked a question that surprised everyone. Camilla, do you want to stay for dinner? Dylan looked at his daughter, stunned. It was the first time she invited Camilla to stay beyond tea. If it's not too much trouble, Camilla said, looking at Dylan. It's never too much trouble, he replied. During dinner, Claire talked about school, friends, and her teacher. Camilla listened to every word with full attention. And you, what do you do for work? Claire asked. I clean houses, I tidy, organize, make everything beautiful. Do you like it? It's honest work. And it lets me live on my own, take care of myself. You live alone? I do. Isn't that lonely? Camilla thought before answering. Sometimes. But now I have you, so I don't feel so alone. Claire smiled. I don't feel alone either. Now I have a father, Eleanor, and you. After dinner, while Eleanor tidied the kitchen, Claire, Dylan, and Camilla remained in the living room. Daddy, Claire said, can I say something? Of course. I think I'm ready. For what? To have a mother. Dylan looked at Camilla and saw she was moved. Are you sure? He asked. I am. She's nice. And I think she really loves me. I do love you, Camilla said softly. Claire stood and walked to Camilla. So, will you be my mother? Really? Camilla couldn't respond. She only nodded, tears streaming. But there are rules, Claire said, serious. What rules? You can't leave again, and you have to come here whenever I call you. And you have to teach me origami. Camilla laughed through her tears. I accept all the rules. All right then. Claire held out her hand to Camilla. Nice to meet you, Mom. Nice to meet you, daughter. They shook hands solemnly, as if signing an official contract. Dylan watched the scene with a full heart. Gradually, their meetings turned into conversation. Conversation turned into trust, and trust turned into family. Claire had finally accepted meeting her mother, and more than that, she had accepted loving her. After Claire accepted Camilla as her mother, Dylan knew the next step would be delicate. They had established a connection, but it was still fragile. The next morning, Dylan found Claire in the kitchen. Good morning, Princess. Can Camilla come over again today? If you want, of course. But I was thinking of something different. Claire looked at him curiously. What if you two spent more time together, not just here at home, but in other places too? What do you mean? Camilla could pick you up at school, or you could go to the park together. Just the two of you. Claire chewed slowly, thinking, without you, without me, so you can get to know each other better. And what if I get nervous? Then you call me. But I think you won't be nervous. You're already friends, remember? Claire smiled. That's true, we are friends. Then, want to try? I do. Dylan called Camilla later. How would you feel about spending more time with Claire? Just the two of you. I would love that, Camilla replied, but Dylan noticed nervousness in her voice. But what if she changes her mind? Camilla, she asked you to be her mother. She won't change her mind. How can you be sure? Because I know our daughter. When Claire decides something, she doesn't go back. Our daughter, Camilla whispered. Our daughter, Dylan agreed. On Wednesday, Camilla went to pick up Claire from school for the first time. Dylan arrived a few minutes early, just to watch from a distance. He saw Claire run out when the bell rang. When she saw Camilla by the gate, her face lit up. Mom, she yelled, running to hug Camilla. Dylan felt his chest warm. It was the first time he heard Claire spontaneously call Camilla Mom. Camilla crouched and hugged her tightly. How was school today? It was great. The teacher said my family drawing was beautiful. Want to see? Claire took a colored sheet from her backpack. The drawing showed 3 figures, a tall man, a dark-haired woman, and a little girl in the middle. We're the 3 of us, Claire explained proudly. Dylan saw Camilla place her hand on her chest, moved. It's beautiful, Claire. May I keep it? Of course, it's for you. That afternoon they went to the park. Claire tossed bits of bread to the ducks. That chubby one there is George. The spotted one is Stella. You named them all? Of course. Eleanor taught me that when you name things, they become more special. Camilla smiled. Eleanor seems very wise. They spent time talking. Claire told them about school, her favorite books, and her fear of spiders. I'm afraid of spiders too, Camilla admitted. Really? Then we're the same. We have many things in common. Like what? We both like to draw, we both like books, and we both love your father. Claire stood still for a moment. You still love Daddy, in a different way, as family. That's good, because family has to love each other. In the days that followed, meetings between Camilla and Claire became more frequent and natural. Sometimes they went to the park, sometimes they stayed at Camilla's house doing origami. Dylan watched the transformation in both of them. Claire was more confident, happier. Her drawings always included 3 people now. Camilla was flourishing. She had a sparkle in her eyes Dylan hadn't seen in years. How was it today? Dylan asked every evening. Wonderful, Claire always replied. Mum taught me a new origami fold, and she made a cake. A cake? A chocolate cake. She said she wants to learn how to make all my favorite foods. Dylan smiled. Camilla was making an effort to truly be part of their family. On Friday, Claire made a request that surprised Dylan. Daddy, can I spend the night at my mum's house tonight? Dylan felt a tightening in his chest. Claire was ready to take the next step. Are you sure? I am. She said she has a room where I can sleep. And tomorrow morning she'll make pancakes. And if you miss me, then I'll call you, but I think I'll be fine. Dylan looked at his daughter. She was growing up, gaining confidence. All right? But if you need anything, you call me, okay? Okay. That night, Dylan was alone in the mansion for the first time in years. The house felt eerily quiet. At 9 p.m., his phone rang. Daddy? Hey, Princess, are you okay? I am. I just wanted to say goodnight. Mom made pancakes for dinner, too. Dylan laughed. Are you having fun? Lots of fun. We made origami of your face. It looked weird, but funny. Send me a photo. I will. Daddy? Yes. Thank you. For what? For letting me have a mother. Dylan felt his throat tighten. Thank you for teaching me to share. I love you. I love you too, Princess. The next morning, Dylan went to pick up Claire from Camilla's house. He found them in the kitchen, covered in flour, laughing. What happened here? He asked. The first batch of pancakes stuck to the pans, Claire explained, but the second batch was perfect. Want to try one? Camilla offered. He took a pancake, still warm. It was delicious. It's wonderful, he said sincerely. Claire helped me, Camilla said. She's a great kitchen assistant. Claire beamed at the praise. Can I sleep here again next week? Dylan looked at Camilla, who nodded shyly. You may, he said, but only if you promise to teach me how to make pancakes too. I promise. Let's teach him. Mom? Let's, Camilla agreed, smiling. Dylan realized something had changed. They weren't 2 separate people trying to share one child anymore. They were 3 people learning to be a family. Gradually, their meetings became dialogue. Dialogue became trust, and trust was growing into something deeper. Claire had finally found a mother, and Dylan had a true partner in raising their daughter. The family was forming, one day at a time. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like, because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.